One played the game for a decade. The others talked about it for longer than that. Together, they're That Other Baseball Show.
I am Jason Page. That is David Aardsma. He pitched. I like to talk about baseball. This is That Other Baseball Show. Good to have you with us for this week's program. Dale Scott's going to drop by in about 10 minutes. We'll get some thoughts with him on all things related to umpiring and the officiating of baseball, because every sport is battling with this, David, where, you know, you've got these issues around the officiating of games, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, all these different sports. So Dale Scott's going to jump on the show. We'll talk to him. He's with Apple TV, MLB Network, works on their baseball broadcasts, sort of their in-studio official guy whenever something happens. He's a former Major League Baseball umpire, the author of The Umpire is Out. So we're happy to have him on the show this week. All right, let's take a whip around the major leagues here, David, and start in the American League, where the Yankees and Indians sort of lead the way. The AL West is kind of doing its own thing right now, where nobody seems to want to take control of that division. I think the Mariners are in first place as of the time that we put the show together. If you ask me in another 2 days, it might be somebody different. All I know is the Astros have been terrible, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better for them right now. But stick to the teams that are playing really well. Yankees, obviously, playing really well, as are the Cleveland Guardians. In the case of the Yankees, though, there are some signs of things you need to be concerned about. They've already been shut out 4 times this year, one of them by the A's just this week. Reason to be concerned if you're a Yankees fan, or do you say, hey, the positive is our pitching is doing really well and the bats haven't even heated up yet?
Well, if Yankee fans can find positives, right? A lot of times New Yorkers want to focus on that negative part of the team because they're just waiting for it to happen. But, right? Like, that, I think it comes with the territory being a New York fan in any way. But no, let's focus on the positives here. Like, we have some very good things happening offensively. Not a whole lot of good things, but you have some very good things. Obviously, Soto is incredible, all of that. We know that. But from a pitching standpoint, they're doing a great job. They're second in the league in ERA. They're doing a great job of pitching. It's just, as a Yankee fan, you got to be collectively holding your breath. When is the injury going to happen? When is something going to go wrong? The rotation's doing a great job. They're holding their own. They're pitching wonderful. There's really no holes right now in the rotation, and so you have to be happy, especially with Rodon being healthy, Stroman being healthy, the way Schmidt's been throwing, Cortez, Luis Gil right now pitching good.
Yeah, Gil's been good.
Doing good, man. Like, this is great. And the bullpen's doing well. Obviously, Clay Holmes is just an absolute stud. Doing great. And so you're kind of sitting there going, okay, when is this going to happen? When are we going to get Garrett Cole back? I mean, you're just kind of waiting on the edge of your seat saying something's going to happen.
Can I ask you something about Holmes now that you bring him up? He was a big sinker ball guy. Everything was the sinker. Now it's the slurve. It's the slider. He's almost 100%. Just throwing sliders now. Like, he has gone away from the sinker, which was his bread and butter, which really put him on the map with the Yankees. He's totally gone away from that and sort of reinvented himself with the slider.
You know, what that is just trying to get more swings and misses, right? Being a good sinker baller is wonderful, but balls in play tend to equal runs. And as a reliever nowadays, that's the anti-reliever. That's what you don't want, which is crazy because guys used to make careers on just throwing sinkers and getting out of jams. That slurve has been wonderful for him. 10 strikeouts and 12 innings pitched. And he's throwing it for strikes. He only has 1 walk. So a lot of times what the big revolution in baseball isn't just finding being able to make the best pitches and all this stuff. Sometimes a lot of it is finding your best pitch and focusing on it. And we noticed the sinker, but then you realize that slider is his best pitch, or now it's become a slurve, and he's throwing it a lot more often and figuring out how to throw harder.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with it, and I love when guys reinvent themselves, and I like it when teams are able to look at and find, this is you, this is how you can be the best in the league. Let's do that.
Baltimore coming on strong over there as well. They've won 8 of 10, starting to hit the ball a little bit as well. They brought up Heston Kjerstad to join Jackson Holiday. So obviously they're starting to bring those minor league pieces up one at a time. You're seeing some of those prospects come up. I don't know if this Cleveland thing is sustainable or not. I am shocked they've scored 134 runs or 134 runs through the first 25 games. It's not an offense that wows you. It's not an offense that's going to hit a ton of balls out of the park. But here they are right now, leading the AL Central with Kansas City nipping at their heels.
Leading the NL Central and doing incredibly well against the rest of the league. I mean, just they're playing great baseball. I mean, they're 7 losses. That is the least amount in the American League, and only second behind the Braves. And so when you're looking at this team playing great baseball, they're pitching very well, they're hitting very well, and so I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think this is an offense that can hold up with that. I don't think it's a bad offense, right? I don't want to say that by any means. It's just not an offense I don't think is sustainable at that type of run production. It's like a senior
softball. It's like a senior league softball team. They bat the ball around. They put balls in play. They don't strike out a lot.
Yes.
A lot of the things that you don't really see in baseball these days, winning with speed, things like that. And look, I mean, for right now in the AL Central, it's working through the first 25 games of the season. But watch Kansas City. Watch the Royals. A lot of fun over there with Bobby Witt Jr. and the rest of what that team's doing. Salvador Perez still playing, still balling out. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, the AL West is doing its own thing right now. Nobody wants to win that division through the first 25 games. It's very mediocre. The Astros have been terrible. You mentioned the National League and the Braves having the best record in baseball at 17-6, and it doesn't even feel like they've hit their stride yet.
No, this Braves team. The scary part about it is we're talking about the amount of runs that Cleveland scored. Well, they've scored 137, and Cleveland's given up 85 runs, and they've given up 93. So they're right there with them with these great stats. So we talk about Cleveland. The Braves are doing great. And again, they haven't even gotten the ground running yet. Like, they still have things in their offense that we're sitting there and kind of waiting on. Riley, Olsen, and Acuna. I still haven't had the type of years that we're just waiting on them, expecting out of them now. And when you can do this without those guys and the injuries on that pitching staff, God, that is scary. They built a team that can just win without 1 or 2 players. They can win no matter who's on down. And the best player in the National League last year, the MVP, is hurt. And is not playing at all on his level. Not hurt, but he's not playing even remotely close to his level. And you're still winning baseball games like this. God, that's when you have a good team. And I love that, because there's so many teams out there. You take their number 1 guy, you take their MVP out, and they're just lost. Yeah. They're a complete opposite.
Brewers and Cubs sort of leading the way in the NL Central. Not a huge surprise there. Pirates and Reds are hanging around in the early going. Elly De La Cruz. I mean, the guy's a human highlight reel. I said it. He's like I think of Blake Griffin, who just retired within the last week or two from the NBA. I think of when Blake Griffin came into the NBA, and every night it felt like there was a Blake Griffin highlight. Him with some crazy dunk, doing something that just defied gravity. He's jumping over cars in slam dunk contests. That's what Elly De La Cruz feels like to me. And I use this term glowingly, he's a freak of nature.
Absolutely freak of nature. And if it's like Blake Griffin, if he was hitting threes like Steph and hitting mid-range jump shots and doing everything, it's a highlight reel in every single form of the game. And what I like is a lot of those highlights are him stealing bases, him creating runs by stealing bases, by running, by making great defensive plays, base hits and running around the bases. And then he drops home runs that are just insane. It reminds me a lot of O'Neal Cruz when he first came up, like those first 2 weeks where he had the hardest hit ball, the hardest run, the fastest run, and the hardest thrown ball in baseball, like history, which is insane. And so we're seeing these things that we never thought one player could do, and he's doing it all. And if you have not seen this yet, get out there and watch him, and just watch his highlights, and then respect his game, because it is special.
He's worth having the MLB package. That's all I'm going to say. Because every time there are guys that when they get up to the plate, you don't go grab a snack, you don't go to the concession stand. He's one of those guys. Juan Soto is another one of those guys. So is Shohei Ohtani. We'll get to him and the Dodgers a little later on in the show. Real quick, adductor strain to the left side here for Blake Snell. Look, the Giants don't really know what they have yet, because their ace has barely pitched. Now he's going to be out, 15-day IL. Give me some sense for what this injury involves for a pitcher.
Oh, so left adductor strain, that's basically your left groin strain. And for, especially for a left-handed pitcher, that is a huge injury. And it's a bothersome injury because there's not a whole lot you can do on it. You have to rest it. You have to wait. You can't strengthen it, can't really stretch it. You ice it, heat it, put electrodes on your groin and all that. How that sounds fun. I'm sure there's some people out there that think that sounds fun. But it is not a fun injury. When you're pitching, the left leg as a lefty, that's all you're using really to push the drive down the mound. And then when you rotate, that's when that injury really grabs you. So you can't really use your hips the way you need to as a pitcher, the way velocity, control, command, all that fun stuff. So you end up having to use your arm. So if you battle through the injury, you're starting to put on a lot of stress on your arm that you don't want to have. Hopefully it's not a bad injury for Blake. And hopefully this is something that they caught quick and they can rest, because some of these injuries are bad and will hold you out.
Is the healing time just different for everybody, though? I mean, he's on the 15-day IL. I would assume they're just going to reevaluate him at the end of that, right?
It absolutely is different because it matters if it's more in the muscle or more higher up on the tendons and ligaments and all that stuff. Because I had one very high up. I felt like a pop in that groin, and I tried to pitch on it, whatever it was, 15 days later, and it was like putting a knife through my leg. But I grunted and my numbers went horrible trying to pitch on it. And then I went back on the DL. First of all, DL IL, that is absolutely insane. So stupid. Just call it DL. That's what we all know. We all still use it. But I ended up going back on the DL4, and then I was never right. I missed the playoffs in 08 basically because of that. And so it is absolutely different for different guys. Just like a hamstring, low hamstring versus high hamstring, mid groin versus
ankle
upper
sprains,
groin.
high ankle, low ankle. You hear all of that sort of stuff. All right, we're going to continue the conversation, but we're going to shift gears, get into it with our friend Dale Scott, who does a terrific job. MLB Network, Apple TV, all things umpiring with him, the former MLB umpire for so many years. Swings by that other baseball show next. Welcome back to the show. Good to have you all with us. And of course, I am so thrilled that we get to talk about the state of umpiring, because it's, look, officiating in every sport right now is a hot button topic. It doesn't matter which one. And frankly, it always feels like we're talking about officiating on some level. And it feels like that kind of takes some of the joy out of the game. So I am thrilled to bring in Dale Scott, longtime Major League Baseball umpire, retired now. He is the author of the book, The Umpire is Out, which is a terrific read. If you get the opportunity, go and check it out. He's also working with MLB Network and Apple TV on their MLB broadcasts, where he is, that guy they go to when there's a controversial call. So he's just sitting there waiting for something to happen most nights, I'm sure. And Dale Scott hangs out with us on that other baseball show. Dale, thanks for coming on for a few minutes. I want to take a couple of different things with you. I want to start with the strike zone, because that is obviously a huge bone of contention around the game. There's talk of electronic strike zones. Angel Hernandez is always the whipping boy for the strike zone, but quite honestly, you could have gripes with a lot of different umpires. One of the games I want to talk to you about from this week has nothing to do with the strike zone, but I watched it, and Hunter Wendelstedt, when he threw out Aaron Boone earlier this week, in that game, I'm looking at the strike zone going, well, I'd be more mad about the strike zone than anything else. I'm sure this is something you hear a lot about. Try and give me the sense from the umpire's point of view. I don't know if it's to defend umpires, if it's to say we want electronic strike zones. Just kind of go.
Well, that's a lot to unpack there.
Sure.
Jason, it's good to see you again. And David, thanks for having me. I'd probably start out with this. The on-screen graphic you see is not 100% accurate. It is a facsimile of the strike zone. It doesn't take into real time. The plate is stationary. It's 17 inches. That's the same all the time. Hitter's height and his actual strike zone can change with every pitch, because it's when you are about to attempt to strike at the pitch is when you judge his zone. And if he is bunting versus swinging away, you have two different zones of the same hitter. because when he's about ready to swing at the ball or whatever. So when we would get our evaluation after I worked a plate game, we wouldn't get it till the next day. And the reason it took that long is because they had a technician to go through, and on every pitch that it said that I missed, would go through and make sure the high low, specifically the high, but both lines are correct, because that's just something you can't do in real time when during a game. The width is stationary. So that's why I say, and a lot of people, it's tough to convince them, because it's what am I supposed to not believe my lion eyes or whatever, it's they see that, and so that is reality. And the thing is that when you see, for example, you see a pitch that is just outside, just misses the line on your screen with that graphic. I've heard, announcers say, "Oh my God, that's way outside. I don't know what he's looking at." It's like, really? That's way outside. First of all, the plate is 17 inches. The ball is almost 3 inches, not quite, but any part of the ball going over any part of the zone, any part of the plate, I should say, it goes over any part of the plate when it's in the zone of the hitter, is by rule a strike, which means that the plate suddenly is almost 3 inches wider on each side. Not quite, because the so in other words, what I'm saying is, when they show a pitch that is just missing the line, I'm not sure, is it saying that it didn't go over any part of the plate, or is it saying, I don't know that technically what they're looking at, or where it's programmed, or where it's synchronized at, or whatever, but that's one of the biggest problems umpires are dealing with right now, is the fact that graphic is reality to everyone, and it's just not 100% accurate. And when we're talking about pitches and misses of a quarter of an inch, half an inch, that makes a difference. I'm not using that as an excuse. That's just the reality, and it's tough to try to tell people, well, what you see isn't exactly what it is, because that's what they see. That's their reality. So, okay, that's part of it. Other part is in the last few years, we have websites now that are ump scorecards, right? Yes. And so they will, whatever methodology and stuff that they use. And again, I'm not brushed up on it. I'm not 100% how they get their facts and figures and everything. So I always look at ump scorecards or those types of sites a little skeptical, because I'm just not sure where they're coming from. But the problem is, the last year I umpired, staff wide for the entire season, and that's thousands of pitches. I don't know how many, a lot of pitches for the entire season, for every game played, was about 97.5, 97.4%. Is it 100%? No, it's not. It never will be 100%. And that's just reality. It's, players make mistakes at times, both errors that are in the box scores, but also mental errors. They miss a cutoff man or something. It's not technically an error, but it's a miscue. And umpires do too. 97.5 or whatever it is. And I understand the league-wide or staff-wide average has gone up a little bit from that. Is pretty good. But the problem is if that missed pitch is in the ninth inning with, the tying run on board, it's a cluster, right? Where if it's the second pitch of an inning in the bottom of the second with nobody on, yeah, it's still the same miss, same pitch, same miss, but it doesn't mean as much. So that, those get magnified, and those get, and when it's just human nature when you see that online, or if you see it maybe on television, like a sportscast or ESPN, it's like every 30 minutes or whatever. Pretty soon you think, well, God, they don't get any pitches right. Well, it might be the same one or two pitches you're seeing many times over the course of a news cycle or whatever. Yeah. Again, I'm not making excuses. That's just reality. And so I remember several years back, there was a lot of ejections early in the year, but historically at that point of the season, it was actually below average. But because there were several compacted into just a couple days, and you kept seeing these highlights of guys getting run, they were saying, oh, the umpire's out of control, they're throwing everybody out. Well, actually, we were under the average of what it would be at that time. But the perception is, oh my God, they're missing all the time. They're screwing up all the time. And as a sidebar, just because you have an ejection doesn't mean you were wrong. Okay. just to throw that out there. So anyway, all those things, all those factors play into it. Now, I have heard online and stuff. I've had discussions with people that there was a umpire last year, Pat Hoberg, outstanding umpire, a great plate guy. He missed the first pitch, according to a scorecard, the first pitch of the game, and then got the rest of them right. So he missed one pitch the entire game, and it was the first pitch. And I remember on Twitter, I said, everybody's blasting umpires on these scores. Let's just give a little credit to Pat here. And somebody wrote back, "Well, yeah, but it's not perfect."
Yeah, I like that guy.
Were they from? Yeah, were they from Chicago?
Yeah. Well, it was a David A. I don't know what.
Yeah, that's very good. Go ahead, David.
So anyway, I can't fight that. No, you're right. It wasn't perfect, but just one more thing, Jason, before we go on.
Sure.
The ABS system, the automatic ball strike system, if people think that that'll make controversy go away, it'll be a perfect game, umpired and everything, I think you're going to probably be disappointed, because look at what happened to expanded replay. We thought, that'll take care of everything. Not really. Right. We have diving catches that on one angle looks no catch, one looks. I mean, there are just times that you just don't know. It could go either way depending on your angle and that kind of stuff. So, be careful what you wish for is all I can say.
We'll get to the Max Scherzer stuff in the next segment, because there's a lot to get to from his thoughts on the ABS. Go ahead, David.
No, in case you were wondering, 721,000 pitches in 2017. Did anyone out there wondering? And the thousands, yes, almost a million. As a union, you have that box on the screen. And again, that changed the game. Once people started watching the game and it became a incredibly anti-umpire thing at that very moment. As a union, was that something that was fought against, or something that has been brought up saying, like, guys, I get the entertainment value, but the reality is this is going to make the game go in a direction that you can't go back. Like, because one missed call makes it seem like in one moment that we are anti one team or pro another, when in all reality, it's just one missed call, just maybe not at the right moment.
Right. And again, the situational misses are huge. I mean, it's a huge factor, because, like I said, that missed pitch in the bottom of the second pitch of the inning, nobody on, they may not even, say anything, right? That exact same miss with the tying run on in the ninth inning, it's the dugouts are on fire. So, and we understand that. And we also understand anytime in postseason is so magnified, anything that's a miss is the world's coming to an end. The thing is, David, is we did push back as a union. We pushed back, and for a while when TBS, they were so far as I know, the only network that when they would show that, they would say, this is a facsimile of the strike zone. It's not the exact strike zone. But again, that after a while, that was just noise. And it's one of those things where, the toothpaste is out of the tube now, but you're never going to get back in. And frankly, I don't know, this is my opinion. I don't think baseball pushed baseball themselves. The union did, but I don't think baseball pushed back too much, because it's entertainment, man. Yeah. The viewers love it. And I get that. But it's just, it's tough that because I worked when we had that screen, the graphic was starting up. I also worked back in the 80s and 90s when we would call pitches 3 inches outside and nobody said a word, but that was okay then, because that was accepted then. And I'm not saying it was right, but that's the way it was. And we got that corrected with the system. But yes, it's never going to be perfect. Even with an ABS, you're going to have controversy. If they go to an ABS system, if they can get it perfected to where it's pretty accurate and all that stuff, and they can use it at a major league level, God bless them. But I really hope that they use the model of letting the umpire and challenge, instead of just having ABS call everything and just have a guy with an earpiece who, by the way, has to be ready to call a pitch if for some reason there's a glitch. which is so unfair to an umpire to go down and focus and concentrate on every single pitch of a game like you're working it, except you aren't, except all of a sudden they say, oh, it glitched, it's yours. And you go, oh, okay, strike. I mean, it's like, that's just not the focus and concentration you need behind the plate to work called pitches in the major leagues. It would be inhumane to make a guy to do that all game and never have a call.
I want to continue the conversation and talk about ABS, but I also want to talk about something else Max Scherzer said with relation to the strike zone. And it has to do with accountability. We'll get into that with Dale Scott, former Major League Baseball umpire, the author of the book, The Umpire is Out. More of That Other Baseball Show continues. Let's keep things moving on this edition of That Other Baseball Show. We're hanging out with Dale Scott, former Major League Baseball umpire with Apple TV, and also does a terrific job over on MLB Network. Whenever you watch broadcasts of games over there, you might see him because whenever there's a controversial call or an issue, they go to him, and he's watching the game, and he's going to tell you what's going on. Did a great job in the major leagues for so many years. Dale, I want you to hear Max Scherzer in his own words. This was Scherzer talking about, I guess he was doing a start at Round Rock, a rehab start as he prepares to come back to the big leagues. And this was what he had to say about the electronic strike zone. And I want to come back from that, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions. Take a listen.
I don't know. I'm not really a fan. I want a human back there judging the calls. I want that's just, it seems too weird to have a robot calling the game. I think I threw an 0 slider and that just felt like a ball, and then all of a sudden that's getting called a strike now. So for me, the way I kind of I've kind of thought about this and how we want the electronic strike zone, and I think when you talk enough guys that we want the human element of the game. The human element of the game is good. And we need to keep that in baseball. And I figure we've done so much in baseball to try to remove the human element. And so for me, going forward, of how I kind of conceptualize what the electronic strike zone should be is really we need to rank the umpires. Let the electronic strike zone rank the umpires, and then we need to have a conversation about the bottom. Let's call it 10% or whatever you want to declare the bottom is, and talk about relegating those umpires to the minor leagues and getting in the best umpires in the game. That way the umpires are going against themselves. It's still a human element of how we rank the umpires, that it's amongst themselves, and that policing kind of the bottom is the way to go. When I'm out there pitching, if you told me I had the 10th best umpire or the 75th best umpire, you don't really notice too much between that because they're really good at their jobs. The umpires are actually really good. It's really the bottom umpires that we all kind of have a problem with. And so if there was a mechanism in order to make the umpires on the bottom better, I think that would be a better way to address this.
Dale, I played the whole thing, and I know it was a little long, but I played the whole thing because there's a number of things that I think to unpack from what he said. And one of them that I come away with is this. Look, if a player sucks, if a player isn't doing his job, if a player's struggling, he gets sent down to the minors. Why can't we do the same with umpires?
Well, before we had the technology, it was because it would be all just
subjective.
Yeah, exactly. and everybody has their own judgment, but that's the old days. That's before we had the technology and the stuff that we have now. I don't have a solid answer for you. I know the union's very strong. I do know Major League Baseball doesn't want to end up paying big league salaries to 3 or 4 umpires that they send to AAA for a month or something. They're not going to be real thrilled about that. A couple of things that Max said. One that I loved, he said, it seems like they're trying to take the human element out of the game, and we need the human element in the game, or I'm paraphrasing, but I like that. Max was tough he's a good pitcher, don't get me wrong, but he was demanding, and I worked him many times, and if he didn't agree with a ball call that I had, he he may not say it verbally, but I certainly knew that he wasn't real happy. But in that clip, he said, I threw what I thought was a ball and called it a strike. You got to remember that the ABS is only going to do what it is programmed to do. And if you literally take the rule of any pitch that crosses any part of the plate at any point in the strike zone, it is technically, by rule, a strike. That literally means a pitch at the front of the plate, at the very outside edge, at the very bottom of the knee or the bottom of the zone that is moving away from the hitter and toward the dirt. It's going to look horrible, right? When the catcher catches it. That technically by rules a strike. Most umpires won't call that a strike because no one really accepts it as a strike, frankly.
Right. I mean, that's the best way to look at it too. And one thing I really liked was Paul Skeens, who in the minor leagues, it's actually really interesting. He has used that system and he's actually used it to his advantage very well. There's some great videos of him using the advantage and getting strikes. And when interviewed by him, he said, he didn't want it either. He said, this is a system that it's interesting, but I want the human back there. I want somebody back there and I'm okay with it. And it's kind of fun to see that he has done something and used it in his advantage and doesn't even want it in the big leagues. One thing to remember too, is that home plate's not the only place these guys are. They could be perfect in the field and be an amazing umpire all around the bases and still be perfect. And the one thing we always see is just behind the plate. That's one thing we got to remember.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you are David, day in and day out, you saw umpires work, and so you saw guys, their work ethic, whether you liked it or not, but you saw them, and it wasn't just a one-off. You see this guy here and there, but to a casual fan who maybe is just a postseason fan or just games once in a while. And they watch a game and umpire Jones misses a key pitch in a late inning game. And the perception, well, that guy's terrible. Well, it might have been the only pitch he missed his last 3 plate job. I don't know. But again, that's situational type stuff that can kill you as an umpire. We always say you're only as good as your last call.
Yeah.
So you can have 100 great calls and then you miss one and they go, wow. This guy, come on. So,
but Dale, at the end of the day, I'm an accountability guy, and whether it's, figuring out a way to, if not relegate, train better or do whatever you have to do with an umpire who struggles with the strike zone. Look, and I don't mean to pick on Angel Hernandez, but and you can sit here and say a box is inaccurate. Angel Hernandez is all over the place. And it's a disaster. Now, I know a lot of people around baseball will say all the other umpires love him. He's a team guy. I'm sure you worked with him over the years. I don't know if you had that same experience. But there are some that are so demonstrably bad that on some level, it is altering the game. Like, it is a different game when Angel Hernandez umps by far and away than when a lot of these other guys are out there. What do you say to that?
Well, I joked a couple of years ago. I said Angel must have been really upset when Joe West retired because now he was elevated up. Listen, I'm not
asking you to kill him. I'm not.
No. But here, Angel and a couple other guys, for whatever reason, some I think is issues that or certain key calls that were made that weren't accurate. Also, I think some of it is just it's got whipped up so much, and it kind of like what I said earlier. If you have 100 calls, but you have this one, and everybody's guys on the bases are great, and then you miss one pitch, and it blows up, and they think that that guy's horrible.
Let me ask you about Aaron Boone, because he gets thrown out of a game by Hunter Wendelstedt earlier this week, and he didn't even say the magic word that should have gotten him thrown out. It was a guy behind him in the stands, it turns out, that sent it. For people who didn't see it, this is what happened. Take a watch.
I'll bring up Tyler Nevin. Ooh. Wow.
Wow.
That's an expansive zone.
You're not yelling at me. I did what I was supposed to do at check. I'm looking for him to get hit by the pitch. You got anything else to say? You're gone. Okay?
Well, we heard that loud and clear from Hunter Wendelstedt.
And there you have it. Hunter did what he's supposed to do. He's looking for the hit by pitch. He gone.
Right?
All right. But here's the problem. I don't care who said it, you're gone. And again, this goes into accountability. I mean, and if Aaron Boone does something wrong, he gets thrown off. Again, all this, and you hear nothing from baseball on this. And it just drives fans nuts.
Well, let me just unpack this a little bit in defense of Hunter. Now, I've got some criticism also, but he had just warned Boone, whether you think that was legit or not, but he had just warned Boone. He turns around. He doesn't see the video. He has no idea that everybody else is sitting watching Aaron Boone say nothing, which, by the way, is very rare. And
Right.
so all he hears is from that direction, from the guy that he gave a warning to, and also a guy that has been known to, pop off a little bit from the dugout. And so he hears it after the warning, boom, and he runs it. Now, Aaron says, I didn't say it. Sure you didn't. I mean, Hunter doesn't know, right? He doesn't know. I mean, at that time, he certainly doesn't know. He's assuming, I know what that word can mean, that it was said by him because of all the circumstances I just talked about. I think where the mistake was made, and when you said, well, I don't care who said it, you're gone, is because unless somebody from the dugout wants to stop, because I'm not going to believe it. Oh, the fan said it. Sure. I won't believe it until I see it on the video. Then I feel like an idiot, right? But the fact of the matter is you don't have that luxury, and Hunter didn't have that luxury on the field. And we've always seen, if somebody pops off and you run them, they go, I didn't say what. Well, then who did? Because, and if somebody says, well, I said, okay, then you're done, and keep the guy in if you want to do that. But that isn't what happened here because it was a fan, and we get that. Now, here's my criticism. Afterwards, I don't know if Hunter saw the video and then talked to the press, which he should have, or if he just talked to the press.
I think he talked to the press. I think he talked to the press before seeing the video.
I think so too.
If I'm not mistaken,
that's a mistake, and you never talk to the press until if you've had a situation until you've seen it on video, because you don't know what they saw. You know what you saw or heard, but you don't know what they saw and heard. Plus, you may see something that happened that you didn't know happened, like this case. So my criticism is, and I've been there before, where you hear something and you find out later it wasn't him, the person you thought it was, but you don't know that, and so anyway, that's my defense and my criticism of Hunter in that situation. Yep. When he doubled down on it, I thought, man, you must not have seen the video.
Here's the other problem with this, and this cuts into all of this. In a world where sports betting is now legal, there are conspiracy theorists abound, and you have players throwing games in the NBA or at least manipulating their stats, and there's always going to be those that question now, the outcome of what they're watching. And, you have replays that they still get it wrong. Joe Adele, which I won't even get into, but it's on the screen. People could see it for themselves. If you didn't see it, it happened on Wednesday. He gets thrown out, caught stealing. He was really safe. Replay center, they still get it wrong. All of that stuff. It leads to a lot of acrimony, whether it's fans, whether it's sports bettors, no matter what it is. I think the goal should just always be, we need to do everything we can with the game to get it right.
Well, I agree. I mean, I agree that's what an official do. That's a great point, though, Jason, which I didn't bring up, I think, in the first segment, is sports betting.
Yeah.
That is a huge factor on, on this stuff. And I didn't even think about it because, for years, it was such a taboo subject. Now, DraftKings and here's our odds, and I mean
they're in bed with it.
Reversal,
they're in bed with it. Bob, look, I had Bob Nightingale on my other show, and and Bob's a pretty buttoned up guy. He's been close to the game for a long time and covered baseball for a long time. And when he came out on my show and said on the air, not off the record or anything, he said the only reason Major League Baseball wants a electronic strike zone is because then then it's much easier to regulate betting on every pitch of the game.
Yeah.
And you'd go, whoa, what is going on here?
It's true. I mean, they have embraced gambling. They're partners with, these.
Yes.
And the ABS, the automatic ball strike a lot of the umpires, the guys that I still talk, I mean, there's a lot of new guys and stuff, but the guys that are still working that I stay in contact with, for a long time we were, just let us do our thing. Now because they're getting beat up so bad, they're just saying, you know what, bring it on. Bring it on, bring on and let's see how that all plays out. And maybe it'll be great. Maybe after the adjustment, everybody will be thrilled with it and we'll move on.
Dale Scott, catch him during the MLB broadcasts over on MLB Network, also on Apple TV. I always appreciate it. You're generous with your time. The name of the book, The Umpire, is out. Go and get it. It's available in bookstores. Dale, always appreciate it, my friend. Let's do it again soon.
Let's do it again. You got it.
More of that other baseball show right around the corner. We welcome you back to this week's episode of That Other Baseball Show. All right, we're going to have some fun at David Aardsma's expense, thanks to a home run from Shohei Ohtani from earlier this week against the Washington Nationals. We'll get to that coming up in a couple of minutes. But first, got to talk about another prospect. It feels like on every show we have some prospects to talk about. This one is a Pittsburgh Pirate. His name is Paul Skeens. He's a big pitcher, throws extremely hard, and he is dominating right now at Indianapolis for a Pirates team that could probably use another arm. I don't know whether they're going to bum. We can figure all that out. But let's talk a little bit about Paul Skeens, who I said dominating right now at Indianapolis. And I'll ask you, David, I mean, look, you've had a chance to kind of take a look at what this guy's doing. What do you see when you look at Paul Skeens?
Absolutely electric stuff. Absolutely electric stuff. Huge man, huge individual, who has pounds the strike zone with 100+ mile an hour fastball. I mean, averaging 100. This is absolutely ridiculous, the type of stuff he's doing. Only one other pitcher has ever thrown, starting pitcher has thrown 100 miles an hour in AAA. Only one time, and he's gotten like something like 90 something. It's incredible what he's done. What we're seeing though is he's given up one earned run. He's striking out over 50% of all the batters he's faced, which is absurd. Which is as if a batter has hit 15 home runs in 20 games. That's the type of numbers you're seeing. It's just some ridiculous number that you just can't even contemplate. So he is showing that from a stuff standpoint, from a pitchability standpoint, he is above AAA. He's not a AAA pitcher. He still might need to figure out some mental stuff. There still might be some stuff that he has to iron out. But really all they're waiting on is if he can get his pitch count up. Can he throw? He's thrown 4 1/3 innings was his last outing. So if you look at that, 4 1/3, that's actually, unfortunately, pretty much big league ready right now. That's so pathetic, is that that's big league ready. And so the real question is he able, or if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, should you have him on the roster? And he is just dominating AAA so well. We're past the point where they control him for an extra year, so they got that. That's all said and done. He's gotten his pitch count up, and they have been working his pitch count up. They're very careful about his days. It's the question of, can you go every 5 days in the big leagues? More stressful pitches, more stressful moments. Every 5 days you're on that mound, and we have a higher expectations than go out there and just pitch to a certain amount.
How do you reconcile when I look at that team and they've given up like 112 or 113 runs, but then I look at team ERA and they're 10th in all of baseball. The Pittsburgh Pirates are 10th in all of baseball. What do you attribute it to when there's a disconnect between team ERA yet the number of runs that team is allowing?
I have to contribute it to it. Ball's going to the wrong place, but there's something.
Just wonder. There's got to be something. And again, maybe this is where analytics can be handy, to somebody like me who's trying to figure out why this team is giving up so many runs, but their team ERA is so low. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me when I sit there and try to figure it out. I know they've had some issues in the bullpen, on the back end of games, so maybe that has something to do with it. But it feels like it feels like the Pirates are still pretty close. When we talk about that NL Central, and I know the Cubs and the Brewers are off to a pretty good start, it feels like the Pirates aren't that far off.
Not at all. I mean, when you look at runs against in the division, Milwaukee's got 92. Everyone else basically 107, 108, 112, and 113. So they're right there in the middle on the pitching side. They're doing a great job, and the run differential -3. So they've given up more than they've gotten. So really, but it's a division outside of Milwaukee that I think it's very grabbable. And at some point, I think Milwaukee will relegate down just a little bit. Say relegate down, will come down just a little bit, and it'll allow the Pirates to step up. And again, they've done a great job. I think a lot of that is from the ERA standpoint. Is from the very beginning of the year, they started out with almost zeros across the board.
Yep.
And it is catching up a little bit, but there's an opportunity there for them. It's just also who are you going to take out of the rotation? They got a spot towards the bottom with Quinn. Prester, I'm not exactly
Priester,
sure.
Yeah.
Priester,
yep.
he's
former Yankee prospect.
He just came up at his prospect, and so you're not going to bring out Mitch Keller. Martin Perez isn't coming out. Jared Jones ain't going anywhere, and Falter's not going anywhere. That's one of their biggest problems. And so if you need to bring him up, you got to take out another prospect for him or pump him into the bullpen. One thing that might be really interesting: do they go 6-man? Do they break away from whatever else?
I'm waiting for a team to make that a regular thing. I'm waiting for a team. Right? Nobody's done it yet. Remember when the Rays were the first team to go with an opener? I think it was wasn't it Lou Piniella? Wasn't that Lou Piniella, or was it Larry Rothschild when he was manager? I don't remember. I
think it was Larry, and I would imagine it was the front office actually probably managing the team.
Sure, but still, I mean, it was pretty wild at the time, and revolutionary at the time, and now you see a lot of teams do it. All right, something fun to finish the show with. Well, fun for me. Maybe not so fun for you. Shohei Ohtani. I don't know if people saw it this week.
First time playing in Nationals
He hit a home run off Matt Barnes.
Still one other stadium that he hasn't played.
I don't know. 86 down the middle is a good idea against arguably the best hitter of this generation. And 86 down the middle did not go well. It went 450 feet. It was almost 120 miles an hour off the bat. And it got me wondering as I watched Ohtani hit this ball a long way into the DC night. Oh, there it goes. Bye. Yeah, I'm just watching it as I sit here and talk to you. It made me ask David Aardsma. I said, David, did you ever have one of these that you gave up that just clear as day it pops in your mind? Like when you see Ohtani hit that, when you hear the crack of the bat, is there something that comes to mind? And I think we may have found it. Sorry, yes. David Aardsma, this is for you.
6 for 6 in save situations so far this season. Reels for the drive, deep left field, and for the second straight game, the White Sox win it on a walk-off home run. It was Andrew Jones last night and Alex Rios this afternoon. Unbelievable. You have got to be kidding.
What's best about this, by the way, is Kenny Albert on the call, who's a dear friend of mine. I love Kenny, know him very well. And the late Tim McCarver was on the mic with him for that game. So you got a pretty memorable call. Two good announcers, Kenny Albert, Tim McCarver. But are you able to recall that like it's yesterday when you think about it?
Absolutely. I'll never forget it because it was a muggy night in Chicago. We were on the road. Like they said, I was 6 for 6. Actually, I was battling a right adductor little groin injury at the time. Never bad. I had some bad ones in the past. So I was battling that a little bit, but I was feeling great, throwing great. And Paul Konerko had hit a home run already to get the game closer. Right off me, like that inning, like he might have been the first batter of the inning, hit a home run, I had a runner on base. And I remember from the moment I let the pitch go, Alex Rios is the one guy that I ever faced that could get my fastball up, and stay on top of it. I let it go and I was watching his swing, and I just went, nope, this ain't it.
And McCarver even says, if we had played the call further, McCarver even says, you were walking off before the ball even, you knew.
I think I made top 10. I made top 10 on this by almost beating him to the line. So I almost I never once watched the ball. I let go of it. He hit it, and I never looked at it. It was just like, it was such the sound, the look, the moment he started to swing, I went, that it gone. And I walked and never saw, I took my glove off straight to the dugout, and I never saw it until later that night. I watched the replay, never even saw the ball. They had no idea where it landed. I assumed it hadn't landed. And
that was back-to-back walk-off losses for you guys.
Yeah, that wasn't a good year for the Mariners.
Yeah, you had a back-to-back walk-off losses to that White Sox team as well. Closest thing I've got is 7th grade. Bobby Region hit a ball off me in a playoff game that is still going. It was the long. Oh yeah, Little League game. He hit a ball that I swear he must have been 5 years older than he claimed he was, but he hit a ball that went over the fence. And then there's a huge field, and then there's another fence that leads to a house up on a hill. He hit it over everything. And I still to this day can remember Bobby Region, the Pit, Fox and Rec League. That would have been like 1989, something like that. That's all I got.
It still hurts.
Yep. And as stupid as it sounds, of all the memories I have of sports, and I had some good memories, that's the one that, yep. I shot 78 twice in my life. If you ask me my best sports memory or my worst sports memory or what I remember most, it's Bobby Region hitting the ball that's still going. Just saying. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this edition of That Other Baseball Show. Thank you to our guest Dale Scott for hanging out on the program. Of course, catch him on Apple TV, MLB Network. Whenever they have to go to an umpire during some of these games that they broadcast, you'll hear from Dale Scott. Thank you to you, David Aardsma, and thanks to all of you for tuning in for another edition of That Other Baseball Show. We'll see you next week.